Hi, I'm Dr.McGee coming to you from Los Angeles, California. So let's get right to it. In 2018, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. It took me by surprise because I thought I was healthy. I don't smoke. I am not really a drinker, maybe once a year or something like that, but I'm not a big drinker at all. I don't do drugs. I run marathons. I really try to live a balanced, healthy life. However, breast cancer came knocking at my door. I didn't know how to feel. The first emotion that I felt was embarrassment. And I don't know why. Why was I embarrassed that a disease had attacked my body that I had no control over? But I did. I felt embarrassment. From there, I began to not really have fear, but have doubt and confusion as to why me. Why did this happen to me? What did I do? What could I have done differently to not have been the victim of breast cancer? All of these questions was running through my mind, and I really didn't have an answer for it. And the reason was because I didn't know much about breast cancer. So it was foreign to me. It was new. And I was now faced with the challenge of figuring it out. The day that I got the call, I was on a high school tour with my daughter at that time. She was just going to high school. It's hard to believe that that was 4 years ago. And we had just got to the one high school, and my doctor called and she said, "Lakeisha, I know how you are. I don't want to play around with this. I got your test results back." And it came back positive. Now, just imagine, I had gone the whole summer waiting to get these test results, and my left nipple was bleeding. So I knew something was wrong, whether it was cancer or whether it was just an infection. I knew something was wrong and something would have to be done. So the test results came in. She said, "Yes, it is positive." She said, "Oh, but it's not as bad as we thought, or, that you might think. It's not as bad as you might think. We caught it early. It is ductal carcinoma. It's in the ducts." So I'm thinking, okay, that can't be too bad, because she said it's not that bad. However, she said, "Make the appointment, come in, and we'll, do a little testing." And she sent me for a additional biopsy. And when it came back, it was worse than I thought. I had stage 2, almost stage 3, HER2 positive, ER and PR positive breast cancer in my left breast. It was, it had affected the whole breast. I had 3 different lumps in my breast. One was in my, right here in my chest area. I would have never felt that. One was underneath the breast, and one was in the meat of the breast. So at that point, I realized that, wow, this is something, and something really is going to have to be done. So they set me up to go and see now what's called an oncologist, something I knew nothing about, but this was the cancer doctor. This person would be the one to advise me on the fate of my future. So my oncologist at this time, the first day I went to see him, it was a doctor in Beverly Hills, I'll never forget. And I sat there for hours waiting for a reception or someone to come and tell me, "Oh, he had to leave and he's not going to be able to see you today." That left such a horrible feeling in my body that I just could not stay with that doctor. So I requested a transfer. And that's when I went to St. Mary's, and I started seeing Dr. Sarkeesian, and he was wonderful. He was a great oncologist, answered all my questions. He was new, so sometimes I would ask questions that he would have to research as well. However, when it came down to the plan of action for me, we had decided that I would start chemo first, and that I would do 6 rounds of chemo and 19 rounds of immunotherapy. Yeah, I think that's what it was. And then after that, we would do radiation. But before any of that, I back up, I'm sorry. We would do a bilateral mastectomy. So we did that on January 31st of 2019 because I was diagnosed in November of 2018. So after the surgery, I wound up in the hospital for 5 days. Some kind of way I had caught an infection or had an outbreak or something where my whole body was covered in bumps and very itchy, and I could not go home. I had an allergic reaction to, I think the chloroprep is what we decided that it was. So I am itchy with drains hanging out of my body, and just starting this process. So I get released after 5 days, and I started going to the plastic surgeon who had given me the tissue expanders. So I started going to him so that he could start pumping up the tissue expanders. So I did that for about, I think, a month. Then after that month, we were ready to start chemo. We were ready to rock and roll. First round of chemo, whoa, I had 4 different medications in this one chemo cocktail. Herceptin, Perjeta, oh my goodness, it was 2 more. I can't think of the name right now. However, the combination was too strong, and guess what? I ended up in the hospital for 5 more days. Only me, so I thought. So I ended up in the hospital for 5 more days because the cocktail was too strong, and I was so sick I could not hold anything in, and everything was running out from both ways. Got past that, did the chemo. It was like something I had never experienced because I had not. It was challenging. After 14 days, I started to lose my hair. After losing my hair, the chemo just got trickier and trickier. The first week after chemo, I would be deadly sick, couldn't eat, couldn't do anything, couldn't hold anything in. I was having severe aches and pains throughout my body, cramping, because after chemo, the next day you go and get a shot that stretches and grows the bone marrow back, and it was quite painful. So I did this for a couple of months, and throughout that process, I forgot to tell you, they took out 8 lymph nodes out of my arm, which all came back clean, thank God. So it had not spread. Throughout chemo, my legs were so heavy that I could barely walk up the stairs. I felt like I was 90 years old trying to get up the stairs. It was awful. I developed lymphedema neuropathy. I actually had lost sight for a little bit. I had to wear a band over my eye, or a mask, because the light was so bright that it would hurt my eyes. Headaches, extremely bad migraines. Wow. It's a process that you never forget. It's something that to this day I still have concerns about. I still wonder when I get a headache, what is that? Or if my leg hurts, what is that? My back hurts, what is that? Will it come back? It's something that you always worry about. You have a built-in anxiety forever. So after the chemo, I did radiation. Radiation was 35 days in a row for me because my margins didn't come back clean. It was supposed to be 4 weeks, but instead it wound up being 5 weeks for me because my margins didn't come back clean, and he wanted to make sure that everything was gone and out of my body and done. So we finished up radiation, and by the grace of God, I made it through that. I was very lethargic all the time because the radiation made me very tired, and it was burning my skin. Burning your skin is what the radiation does. And yes, all of these things sound horrible to put in your body, the chemo, the radiation, but I have 4 children, and I needed to be alive for my children. And because the cancer spread so rapidly, I didn't want to take any chances. So I took the route of going to chemo and radiation. Would I do it again, given the same state that I was in? I probably would, because I want to live. So during this time, I would go live. Every chemo appointment, every radiation appointment, every time I could, I would go live. And the reason that I went live is because I wanted to be an encouragement for someone who was going through the exact same thing as me. I became an advocate. I wanted to spread awareness about breast cancer because early detection is the key. Not only did I want to spread awareness about early detection, I wanted to spread awareness about what this disease does to your body and your mind and your spirit and your family. It's destructive. During the times that I would go live during chemo and radiation, I would show and share my process, and my inbox would light up. Women would say, I did that by myself. I didn't tell anyone that I was going through this because I was embarrassed. Or women would say, hey, I was just diagnosed. It was like a sea of fish. So many women were being diagnosed at the time that I was diagnosed. And it was like, what's happening? African American women were being diagnosed at a smaller rate than their other counterparts. However, the mortality rate for African American women is 40% higher. Several factors play a part of that. Not receiving early detection, because a lot of times African American women don't go to the doctor, as well as diagnoses and not having good medical care, not having the proper education that they need, being afraid to go to the doctors. All of these things play a factor in the survival rate of African American women. So I went live. I shared my story. I showed my wounds. I told my testimony, and I began to build a following for women and become an advocate for women. And not just women, men. Men are affected by breast cancer at a 3% rate, but still 3% for a male is still high for breast cancer. So during this time, I wrote a book. The book is called 12 Shades of Breast Cancer. It was an anthology with 12 other people. I became the champion in rallying other survivors together to tell their stories, because there were so many people that needed to hear our stories so that they can walk in faith, so that they can walk in confidence, so that they could just walk, so that they could just make it through their treatments. So we wrote the book, partnered with Susan G. Komen. At that time, they had a program called the Circle of Promise, which was for African American women and men. It was one of the only programs that Susan G. Komen had for African American women and men. The program has since been disbanded, but at that time it was. Partnered with them, had an advisor, and we were spreading awareness about breast cancer. So by profession, I'm a therapist, so I created a support group. I wanted to provide a safe place for others to come who have been affected by this disease the same way that I have been. A place where they can share their stories and not feel judged, not feel embarrassed, but feel supported. Now, I know this story, and I know this may just seem, boring that I'm telling this story this way, but the whole point of me telling this was that when you get into a situation where you don't know if you're coming out or not, the adversity that you are faced with, that's when you find out what you're really made of. That's when you become your strongest, your best self. That's when you pull out all the guns and you do what is best. You show up for you. Healing is a process that only you can do for you, and sometimes it requires more than what you really know you have. It is something that you must do for you. No one can heal you but you for you. It is intentional, it is consistent, and it has to be done in order for you to move to the next level or that next place in your life. I had been through so many things before, but I had never been through a medical situation that I needed to heal from. I've been through a divorce, a bad divorce. I had been through being a young single mother. I had been through all types of other adversities, but never anything dealing with my health. So when I was faced with this, I had to figure it out. And either I was going to, what do they say? You're either going to die or you're going to die trying. Well, I was going to die trying. And that was going to be trying to live because I wanted to live. I wanted to live not just for me, but I wanted to live for others. I wanted to live for my children, for my community, for other people, to show them that they too could win, that they too could beat the odds if they believe they could beat the odds. When I was first diagnosed, I remember I heard God say, "Not all sickness is unto death." And I remembered that. I kept that with me. And I knew that I was going to be okay. I was going to go through some stuff, but I was going to be okay. And I knew that my life would never be the same, that I would always have to speak up, research, share, care, talk about breast cancer, be about breast cancer, because that was now the role that He had given me. I didn't have a choice. So I had to embrace this new role, this new place, this new thing that I had to be the champion for. And that was breast cancer awareness. Thank you. I am now here to share, to spread, to fight, to do whatever is necessary to be an advocate for breast cancer awareness and early detection. My nonprofit is the Heal Her 2 Foundation. We can be followed on all social medias at heal, HEAL _her, HER, the number 2. And our website is www.healher2foundation.org. My name is Dr. McGee. I'm on Instagram and all other social medias as I am Dr. Dr. McGee, MCGEE. I am Dr. McGee, or is it I am Dr. Lakeisha McGee? I still have brain fog from chemo, so I forget. But I think it is I am Dr. McGee. So please follow me on Instagram and all social medias. And if you need any information or anything pertaining to breast cancer, please don't hesitate to send me a message. And I will return and provide any information that I can. Remember, it takes a village. We all need each other.